Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. Finals week 3, preliminary finals review show. So, unfortunately, not live tonight. You're obviously getting this quite delayed. So, it's just myself as well. A few of the boys are off away and things like that on school holidays. So, just myself on my lonesome to talk to you guys. My thoughts about both games, a few of the talking points and things like that. Shouldn't be a long one. Got a few things to talk about, a few things to get off my chest, things like that. But let's get it straight into it. Got back straight from the Broncos versus Penrith game. Literally had a bite to eat and stuck straight into here. So haven't had a huge chance to go back and look over that game, obviously, but wanted to make sure I got this out to you guys as soon as possible. Shout out once again to Caxton Brewing Company for the sponsorship of the podcast. Really much appreciated. Went there before the game actually today. Fantastic bite to eat. Had nice burger chips and a nice little Coke just to wash it down with as well. But I got there, I thought early. Turned out it wasn't because it was already packed. So the atmosphere before, after, during the game, absolutely sensational. So shout out to everyone there. Before, after, I had a few chats with a few people, things like that. And some very great football fans out there that we do have. And like I said, I've been to some big games. I think the Origin game where Trent Hodgkinson scored that try is probably the best atmosphere I've ever been part of. Literally, his feeling at like Olympic Park was shaking, was absolutely insane. That's a close second. That was insane tonight. So shout out to the Broncos fans who, at times, being in neutral, I was sitting there and I had everyone all around me yelling and things like that. You can become very one-eyed, but at the same time, heat of the moment in those sorts of games, I'd question people if they weren't. So well done to all you Broncos fans out there that witnessed that fantastic comeback victory. Let's get more into that game. And before I start, I did a bit of a post about this. I need to mention Payne Haas. What a fucking machine. It needs to be said that way because I want to go over the numbers, but I looked at the numbers before I came on and I'd have realized that the numbers don't actually do this performance justice. For his numbers, he played 80 minutes. Now that says so much in itself. 80 minutes, prop forward. I knew coming into this game that no Carrigan meant Payne Haas needed to be just an absolute monster. And we've seen him do it before, but he needed one of his best performances of all time. And I think he's actually produced that, if not the best. He's 18 runs, or 20 runs, 182 meters, 82 post-contact meters, 4 tackle breaks, one offload, 46 tackles. It was just, and no missed tackles either in that. It was just one of those performances from Payne Haas that I just thought was absolutely unreal. And being at the game live and getting to watch things, and I watched a lot of the off the board, not on the camera shots. He was everywhere tonight, absolutely everywhere. And I noticed when all the celebrations were happening, I went straight to find where Payne Haas was, collapsed on the ground, and no wonder why. He was everywhere that the middle was. It felt like there was 3 Payne Haases on the field, and he was doing things that props getting 2 stints on the field wouldn't normally do. He was making those effort plays, playing a full 80-minute stint, mind you. That little thing like covering that Cleary kick that ended up in the in goal, just those little details from mine personified this to be one of the greatest performances, I'll go out and say it, that I've actually ever watched from a player. And we've watched some remarkable individual exciting performances, but I actually think at times we go past some of these sorts of performances, and I really don't want it this time with Payne Haas, and I want to give him the credit that he deserves because, like I said, that was absolutely ridiculous performance tonight. Payne Haas, you are a freak, and I hope all of you listening are agreeing, and I hope plenty out there are giving him the credit that he definitely deserves. Let's talk a bit more about the game. So live, you obviously get very into it, things like that. There's a few little things that I may have missed and stuff like that. But let's talk about – let's go quickly on the Penrith Panthers, okay? I want to talk about the Penrith Panthers and the fact that the dynasty is over. 4 is over. We are not getting to a 5. Now, being a neutral in this final series, I sort of started to look at that Penrith dynasty, and I actually was thinking 5 would be really cool. 5 would actually go down really cool. Like that's I know 4 is next level, but something about getting 5 in a row that just it's like a complete middle finger to everyone else in the comp, and I love it. Being a Parramatta fan, basically hating Penrith, I just can't look past how great they've been and very close tonight. I'll go into a couple of little details and moments that I've pinpointed that I thought was the turning point, that I thought if they scored then, they win that game and they're on to the grand final next week. We get Storm versus Penrith, but it wasn't to be. But I just want to really respect the side that we have got to witness over the last 4 or 5 years. And the scary thing is, sorry to say out there, I actually think they're going to get better next year and moving forward. They've got a couple of really young guys in there who I reckon have played out of their skin this year. They've actually gone up a level that I didn't think a lot of them had in it. Casey McLean, Blaze Slungy's had some moments, both good and bad throughout the year, and he'll just be better for that run. When you got those sorts of players in there, Alan Motti's still quite young on the wing and was in and out of first grade all year, so he's a final specialist. But when it comes to those sorts of players in your team and being so young and ready to come through and really establish himself, I think Blaze is telling you, especially linking up with Cleary next year. I think their combination, which coincides with the fact that I think Penrith will actually just go to a whole nother level next year. And I'll be very, very keen to see who can back him to not be thereabouts again next year. I think they'll go very close to winning the competition. But credit to Penrith Panthers. Remarkable journey you've been on, and you've taken rugby league fans and the rugby league game itself on over the last 4 or 5 years. Really do appreciate it. But there was a moment in that second half. It was about, I think it was about 7 or 8 minutes in, where they were smashing the line of the Broncos. It was right in front of where I was basically sitting. I was up above. It's a great viewpoint of everything. Really recommend actually, if you go to Suncorp, sit up a little bit higher in sort of behind the goal. You get a very good viewpoint of a lot of things in that game and the lines and run and things like that. So what I wanted to pinpoint was there was a moment in that phase where Cleary took on the line on the last, and he literally just had to pop it to Blaze Slungy, who was in untouched. The Penrith Panthers will go to 20 points to 0 with about 30 minutes to play. He didn't. He held on to that ball, Nathan Cleary, and I reckon if he had his time over again, he's popping that pass every day of the week, because I think he made a little boo-boo there. Nathan Cleary is human. He's had a remarkable final series. I even thought it was pretty good tonight. I know there's a lot of Broncos fans out there that gave him their all tonight. It was very I enjoyed listening to it. I thought it was quite funny. But I think that little play there, and I said in a few chats that I was in, I said, this moment right now, remember this, because with 30 minutes to go, it was literally the next set, the next tackle, because it was a changeover. Broncos get a penalty, march up the field. They score in that set with Katoni Staggs. So it was a huge momentum changer. As I said, if they score that 20-0, turn off everything that you've got. Crowd to start going home. The Broncos are all over and done with, in my opinion, but it wasn't to be, in a remarkable comeback for the Broncos. Oh, actually, before I go there, I'll go one more controversial moment in the game. The Cleary versus Ezra Mann moment. Look, what I will say on this one is I actually think both of them probably should have gone to the bin. I know there's obviously a very weighted home crowd, but that they saw Cleary reach up first and make a bit of contact, things like that. So happy for Nathan Cleary to go. But what Ezra Mann did in retaliation, you can't be doing either. If this is a regular season football game, they would have both been in the sin bin. Do I like the fact that they weren't? No, not really. I like the fact that the referee allowed this game to flow a fair bit. I'm glad he didn't give in to crowd penalties, because there was a number where the crowd wanted it, where, to be fair, as a neutral, I didn't think it warranted being a penalty. And there was a few times where the Broncos were clearly offside and things like that, which obviously weren't called by the crowd, and it was just let to go. The play was just let to go on. So I feel like in the end it's sort of balanced itself out. But I just think in that instance, in that moment, I would have been completely happy, and I thought it would have been the right call to sin bin both Ezra Mann and Nathan Cleary, and then go from there. If that did happen, it would have been a huge opening for the Broncos, though, because they would have had 10 minutes without a Nathan Cleary-led Penrith Panthers side. And I don't think Blade Slung is quite up to being that person who can steer the team around. So I think Broncos would have probably scored a fair few tries in that 10-minute period. So even if it meant they lost Ezra Mam, I think they would have taken that deal up for sure. For the Broncos, massive, massive credit to stay in there. 14-0 at half time. It's got to be said they didn't seem like they were in this contest. It seemed like it was Penrith. They'd come back out and just get back into the wheels in motion that Penrith do, and the Broncos wouldn't be able to go through, go past them. So credit to them, they overtook. They got the momentum back, which seemed to be away from them for basically the first 50 minutes of this game. As soon as they got a chance to get some momentum into this game, they did that. And then it was just the wheels went in motion from there. I don't think there's really individuals apart from the Payne Haas one that I mentioned that you can really like in terms of their attacking weapons. One thing I didn't really like the look of, and I'm very curious to hear what some of you Broncos fans have to say about this one, but it felt like for a lot of this game, the halves of Reynolds and Hunt did basically everything they could to not give the ball to Ezra Mam or overcall Reece Walsh and overcall Reece Walsh on almost every occasion they possibly could. Now, this was a worry all in the lead up to the week. As soon as they named this Haas pairing, and if you think back to the start of the year, Ezra Mam struggled. He wasn't that great, and it was coincidentally with this Haas pairing that we've seen tonight. I was very, very worried. I'm glad that they've got through. Now I'm very interested to see what the game plan is moving forward because whether Reynolds and Hunt will admit it, Hunt obviously lesser. I think Reynolds was obviously the key chief playmaker in this game. He needs to seriously go and meet Reece Walsh again or something, or watch the last 6 or so weeks because Reece Walsh has been the form player of the competition. And there was a number of times today or tonight where he had moments to go short side raids or try and exploit a 4-on-3 or something like that. And they went the other side. He was overcalled. You cannot be doing that in the grand final. If you're going to meet this Melbourne Storm side, you need to make sure you play some football. And for the Broncos, that's getting the ball into Reece Walsh's hands as much as humanly possible. You are the most dangerous side you possibly can be when Reece Walsh is involved, running around, running the opposition defense around. You need to be doing that. He had a glimpse of brilliance right at the end there. Sava tried to win the game. That's what he can do much, much more of. Please make it happen. The other thing is give Katoni Staggs some more ball. He's screaming for it. He's in rare, rare form. And I always feel bad. We always overlook him. Even on here, we never really get to talk about him much. So I'll give him some of his money, basically. I'll give him some credit where it's due. Probably wasn't his best game ever or even of the season, but he was still very, very good, Katoni Staggs. I think his season so far has been absolutely remarkable. Whoever he chooses, whether it's Tonga or Australia at the end of the year, he's one of the first picked for either country, in my opinion. His form has been that good. Last one before I move on from this game, because we'll talk about a lot more in the preview coming up on Wednesday. I'll have people to bounce off. It might be a much easier podcast for me to navigate. I appreciate you all sticking by. If you listen this far, smash that like button, follow it. Give us a rating if you listen on podcasts as well. It does go a hell of a long way of helping support the page. The good thing is all of those ways I've just mentioned are completely free as well. So free way to help promote the podcast and get behind what we do each and every week. Last one is just the Adam Reynolds conversion. When I seen that try, obviously the crowd went up. Hard to not get involved with the emotion side of things, looking around, seeing how everyone's getting into it. And then I sit back and I go, well, why everyone's cheering right now? Reece Walsh 5-10 minutes ago just missed one that was basically a throw over for him any day of the week. I didn't even think in my mind at that stage that Adam Reynolds would be kicking. I thought Adam Reynolds just thought with his injury and things like that, goal kicking's off the cards this week. Not gonna push it. Perhaps I'll go back to it next week. So I'm sitting there going, okay, everyone's involved, crowd's pumping, this is good. Reece Walsh isn't going to make this kick. I don't think Reece Walsh is going to make this kick after what had just happened. And then all of a sudden you look over, Reynolds is basically, it's like a movie, steps up, slow motion, everyone's eyes are locked on him. The pressure he would have been feeling, having 52,000 eyes on him, to nail that, it literally from the moment it left the boot, it wasn't missing. It was hit so sweetly. One of the best sideline conversions or conversions in general, I reckon we've ever seen. So right up there in my opinion. Let me know what you think of that conversion and where it rates for you. But in that moment to win the game for the Brisbane Broncos, to step up after not kicking all game. Absolutely sensational by Adam Reynolds. That's it for that game. Let's move over, obviously, to the Storm and Sharks. Now, what I'll say on this game, there isn't that much to talk about because, to be honest with you, I don't think it was a very good prelim final. I actually think it was boring as batshit. Brutally honest with you, I don't think either side was that good. I actually said since that game happened that whoever won today in the Broncos Penrith game would win the comp. So I'm on the Broncos at the moment. I think they're looking the better and the more form side. Storm just looked like they were. What's the words to? They look like, obviously, with their halves not playing that much football together, especially in recent times. A lot of them are still trying to get back on the same page and things like that. And multiple of them had multiple different times throughout this game where they had some good moments. So credit to them for that. But I just don't think they were the Storm of old that we sit back and we go, oh shit, we've got to verse the Storm this week. So I think there's literally a Broncos side to be sitting there tomorrow in recovery and video and what they start to do and start thinking to themselves, boys, look around. We're in with a real shot here at a premiership. Let's do it. They obviously beat the Storm a few weeks ago, minus some of the stars for the Storm, obviously. But yeah, I'm very keen to see what happens this week and in the build-up and talking points and things like that. But back to the Storm and just this performance. Stefano Utoikamanu. I haven't been the biggest fan of Stefano, I'll be honest with you. I've never rated him as highly as some do. I think maybe his origin performances impact the way I look at him because I watch all the games, but maybe I don't watch him as closely as, say, some Storm supporters do. But one thing I'll respect of his game is since he started the Melbourne Storm throughout this year, his game has improved. Feels like almost by the game. Like he's gotten that better. We did say last week that I was very interested to see how he came out this week because, in my opinion, he's not experience-wise, but I feel like he's the enforcer now of this side. Especially with no Nelson for Solomona through suspension. I was really looking forward to him stepping up, and he did that. We just spoke about Paynas before. Stefano was absolutely unreal. That first stint that he had, especially, that's some of the best front row stints that you'll see all season, and to save it for effectively his biggest game of his career so far, a prelim final for the Melbourne Storm to get in the grand final where you're the new recruit basically still. Yep, look, it's been a full season, but I've got no doubt he and probably a few others who are in and around that club are thinking, you've still got to prove yourself here, mate. And he definitely did that. He would be on cloud nine after that performance, in my opinion. I just think he was absolutely sensational. And it's good to see in the big games that some of these big men really stood up to show the likes of the Bulldogs and other sides like that who haven't really gotten that right so far, how important it is still to have that one or two really big bopper, intimidating forwards who can lay a platform, be really good at it, and go from there. There's obviously some controversial moment in this game. Firstly, I want to talk about the Ashley Klein performance. Now, we've been pretty critical of refereeing performances all throughout the year. Now, let me start off by saying he didn't have a good game. He didn't referee that well either. Yes, there was so many penalties. I think, what was it, 22 minutes of play, ball in play as well in the first half. No, that should not happen. That if we've got a 40-minute game, and I don't get this with the clock and things like that, why aren't we maximizing that to ensure that we've got the most game time possible? Stop the clock any chance you get, in my opinion. Make sure we've got close to 40 minutes each half of football. I don't get why we're jeopardizing that and letting the clock run down 30, 45 seconds a minute if the ball goes out or to set up a conversion and things like that. Penalty, everyone sits around having a meeting for a minute, it feels like. There's no need to stop the game. As soon as the ball's back into play, go again, maximize the game time, in my opinion. But hey, gone off on a really rough tangent there. Let's get back onto it. So Ashley Klein, wasn't a great performance. But let me just say this as well. I think the tactics of both sides, I know Fitzy was pretty critical of the referee, but I'll lay blame on him as well. I actually think both the coaching performances and the way the team played led to this type of game. And I think it obviously got this Melbourne Storm the victory, so they'll be happy, things like that. But they could have got penalised a hell of a lot more. I think they were getting away with almost murder in the ruck. Their ruck speed was horrible. bringing 3 people into the tackle almost every chance they got to purposely slow down the play. And I'm just getting to the stage now. I really want the NRL at the end of this year to look into it and say 2 is maximum in the tackle, especially once the ball carrier, the momentum that's stopped. There's no need to have a third player because literally the only reason they're doing it is to slow the play the ball down. It's literally the only reason, which, go to the rule book, is a penalty. You cannot deliberately slow the play the ball down. So I think that was really impactful to the game. In saying that, the Sharkies did similar throughout the game as well. And that's why I mean both coaches, yep, we're very quick to blame the referees. I just think the way that was coached that game and the way that the styles developed, it was all 3 of them, and throw the bunker into it as well. All 4 of them can hold hands in kumbaya because I think they all had their own parts in making this prelim a pretty dog shit prelim, to be brutally honest with you. Now, where do I go from here? Because this one caused quite a stir on the old Facebook, especially. So let's just say social media, because there's a little bit of Instagram, mainly Facebook. So this whole, the Jerome Hughes, I'm going to say high tackle, with inverted commas, with plenty of sarcasm, that he copped by Trindle. Now, I want to firstly say one thing to people out there. I run a page, okay, and I don't think I'm all high mind. I don't think my shit don't stick. I don't think my opinion's always right. I've said from day dot this, having this page and having the podcast and things like that, I value everyone's opinion on the game. I think our game is as good as it can ever be because of the opinions that happen in this game. So what I don't really like and respect, and I've noticed a lot more happening over this year and things like that with content creators putting themselves out more. And I'm trying to be more human with everyone out there because I'm trying to do more videos and reply to comments and things like that, which I reckon 90% of you really appreciate me doing, going out of my way to do that and make it a lot more approachable and to you to know sort of the face behind the show and the posts and things like that. So I'm hoping that translates over. What I don't like is there was a number of them where you can't just get into an adult debate with them and talk some footy. There's always some personal insult. You call out personal insults and then you call it a clown and things like that, which I just think is absolute dog shit. If you want to come onto the page and chat, that's fine. If you want to come on and debate, that's fine. If you want to start throwing insults at, even if it's not just me, if it's at someone else in the show, or if it's just someone in the comments who has a differing opinion, I'm going to just start blocking it because I don't think there's a time or a place for it and there's no need for it anymore. That's not about being a weak individual either. I think that's just standing up for people's basic rights. I don't resort to it. I don't ever go out and do personal insults or jobs at anyone when it comes to this game. This is a game, let's not forget. This is a dead set game of football. Life goes on. We've all got families, we've all got partners. Life goes on. Go on and have your say, have your opinions, that's fine. But don't go personal. Now, with this whole thing, and I get there's going to be Storm fans that come on there. They're passionate. That's happened. They see someone not bagging their club out, but bagging out a decision that obviously went for them. I get you're going to come on and you probably don't feel like it, but I guarantee you all are. You're protecting the club. You're coming at the club first mentality, and you can all come out and say you won't, but you did, and that's exactly what happened. Now, me watching it, and I've watched this incident, I reckon now, honestly, 30 to 35 times. I've literally watched it that many freaking times. And I still can't, for the life of me, see Jerome Trindle's shoulder make direct contact to Jerome Hughes' head. It is literally Trindle's head that hits the back of his head that literally Hughes lands on after jumping to take the ball and hits. A complete accident. And I think so many of you out there are forgetting what I'm originally saying here is the fact that that is not a fucking penalty. An accidental head collision is not a penalty. And to go even further on this is another point that you've all forgotten to actually realize that I've said. Ashley Klein actually got this right, in my opinion, because he said originally play on. It's only because you had to take those few seconds to play the ball ready that the Melbourne Storm then had time to challenge the decision. Klein said play on even after seeing Hughes's blood or mouth all bloodied and things like that. So I actually think it's credit to Ashley Klein. What I think's happened here, and I think he's piss poor, and it hardly ever gets spoken about anymore. It's always just straight onto the ref. The bunker. Why would you override that? That's not a no. Like in my opinion, that's complete accidental. Why would you override and basically say to the referee, got no confidence in your decision here? The way I thought the bunker was to do was to literally override the howlers. This isn't a howler of a decision. If I was sitting up in the bunker, I go, I can see why the referee made this decision. We're going with him. Move forward. I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. So, did he go in to put pressure on Hughes? 100%. That's literally the defensive style, to go in and rush when you're caught short, which they were originally. And Braden Trindle, in my opinion, actually did a really good read and he stopped the play. So I just don't get it. I really don't get it. But everyone has their opinion. That's my opinion on the matter. That's how I see it. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. And you guys out there, there'll be some of you that have different opinions, and that's totally fine. All I will say is, again, if you're going to go on the comments, things like that, please do. Please let me know what you think. Let's chat literally civilized about it, please. That's all I ask. Please, let's chat civilized about things. Moving on, because I've had a gutful of talking about that because it's basically been my weekend. So let's the other thing I will talk about here is the Cronulla Sharks performance, and I don't know if I should bite my tongue or how much I should bite my tongue here, because I don't know how to judge this one from the Cronulla Sharks, because they played really well to get here. They have been having some really good games, and I said last week, it actually looked like the halves got to a stage where they were starting to work together. And I really liked that. I really liked what I was seeing from both halves. And it looked like it was Hines' team basically to run. Trindle was the kicker. Like it, love it. It works well for the Sharks. Just seems that everything went out the window this game. And Kennedy as well. I know there's been some big criticism out there by a few pages and that, and some fullback ratings and things like that has come out. And he's not. The Cronulla Sharks haven't re-signed him yet, and I think there's reasons why. And I think they can see it, and I think they're just being very careful with how they handle it at the moment, because I know they've got Ison, that's coming through, and they've got some big raps on. Is he ready for next year? Not too sure. He'll probably get a taste, but I don't know if he's got a full 24 weeks of NRL football in him. So I don't know what if the Sharkies at the moment are thinking, do we try and give Kennedy maybe a lower contract and go, look, can you stick around for one more year? But then after that, please, like, it's see you later, maybe go to the Bears, things like that. Or is it them going, the Sharks, the time to move on is now, and either blood, or we pray and fingers crossed that someone becomes available, even if it's just for a short-term contract. We get him for a year, and then Eason's our man moving forward. I'm very curious to see over the next few months, because to not be re-signed yet and be in such a crucial position for that team, and he's played every game this year. He's been very solid for the Sharkies in terms of numbers. He's played it on a yearly basis. So to be at this time of year where the season's now over for the Sharks and not be extended, I think it's a worry if you were in the Kennedy camp. I think that's a big worry there for him. But very curious to see what the Sharkies do moving forward. I just think him and the spine just didn't have one of their good games. I was pretty disappointed in Fanua Blake as well, who I thought was pretty quiet by his standards, and I don't think he quite truly stood up when it counted. And Stefano just, for mine, absolutely bashed the forward pack of Cronulla and made him look second rate, which, again, we've always said playmakers can't do much off a beaten forward pack, and that might have played into why Nico and Trindle didn't have the games that we were basically anticipating him having. That is it. That's all I'll talk about for now. Love to wait to have a few people to jump off and things like that, make it a bit more interesting for you guys. Went on a bit of a tangent with a few things there. My apologies about hopefully not boring you all too much with that. Smash the like button, please. Hit the subscribe all across our social media platforms as well. Any social media you're on, type in League of Inches, you will find us there. Give us a rating if you could. I think Facebook and wherever you listen to your podcast. Merch, you want a hat, shirts, things like that, go ahead, reach out to the page. We'll organize that for you as well. Another way just to add a little bit more support if you possibly can. And finally, Legends Group. Obviously, we're going into the off-season now. We will have some things coming throughout the off-season, pre-season. So keep an eye out for that to make that group bigger and better. So if you want to go and give a small sort of donation to the page, $2.99 per month to go in there. We've got some exclusive chats, betting, things like that. So Supercoach, it's all there, all under one roof, and you get to talk directly with us in the League of Inches for podcast as well. But that is it. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. To the Sharkies fans and the Penrith Panthers fans, season is over. Hold your head up high, being the top 4 teams of the competition. I think it's a fantastic result for the Broncos and for the Melbourne Storm. Plenty to talk about in the lead up. Stay tuned to the page. Plenty of posts to come. And like I said, we'll have the Supercoach Grand Final edition Tuesday night. That'll be myself and Jesse. And then Wednesday, myself, Trav, and Saz will be along for a massive Grand Final review show, preview show, where we'll have all the talking points coming into a huge week and a huge Grand Final. So thank you very much for being part of things. One final thing before I sign off is that our live shows are now over and done with for the year, so there'll be no more live shows. And this tonight will be the last review show as well. I will actually be down in Sydney next week, seeing some family and things like that. So I won't have any of my podcasting gear. I'll be doing the posts and stuff like that, doing some individual videos with the phone. But unfortunately, I will not have my podcasting gear. So I'll wait and maybe come back on a Wednesday or something to review everything and start talking about the season as a whole. Thank you very much for listening. See you all throughout the week. Goodbye.